Hello there, and welcome to another list of my favorite music CDs. This is the more recent one from 2005. I wasn't really listening to a lot of new music between about 2002 and 2005. But when I heard Earth, Wind & Fire were coming out with a new album with Maurice White, I was really curious. And now this album is fantastic. They aren't trying to really go along with hip-hop and trying to keep up with trends and all that business, but they just get down to some great funkiness. There's a great song on here called Pure Gold, and, oh my goodness. Lovely People, will.i.am from the Black Eyed Peas is on it. Love Dance is an amazing song, along with, Show You the Way to My Heart with Raphael Saadiq. Even This Is How I Feel with, Antoine Big Boy Patton from Outkast. Absolutely terrific album. Great funk. And they even do an instrumental on this album. Something you could have heard from them in the 70s called Liberation. Something I haven't heard Earth, Wind & Fire do in years. They're coming out with a new album this summer. Look for it. New studio album from them. Can't wait to see what they do after this. They're a band that could be on the cusp of an amazing comeback. Now, next up on the list is ELO, Electric Light Orchestra. Now, I have a good share of rock records in my favorite collection, but this is one that I always go back to because Jeff Lynne is one of the most amazing producers. As far as I'm concerned, Electric Light Orchestra are the Beatles of the 70s. They just have this immaculately beautiful production and very, very ahead of their time. Very spacey, the right mix of electronics and orchestrations, and the melodies are, well, Turn to Stone, Mr. Blue Sky, I don't need to go there. Y'all know this album. This is their album Discovery from 1979. As you all know, this is a little shortly before they did the Xanadu soundtrack. They're getting into more of a dance production here and keeping with the disco era. They have a song on here called Shine a Light, which was a big hit. Kind of an interesting song about masculinity called I think it's called The Diary of Horace Wimp. Yeah, The Diary of Horace Wimp, which is very clever. And Last Train to London. And, of course, Don't Let Me Down. You all know that. Don't Let Me Down. Another great album from ELO. Now, this actually I found at a record store called Strawberries in a budget bin. I think it was $4, this CD. This is Kool and the Gang as one. Now, a lot of Kool and the Gang fans, get on the band for this era terribly. Probably because they had a lot of hits. Well, the hit on this album is a song called Big Fun. Umir Deodato did this. But they also started out with a great, again, a boogie bunk kind of song called Street Kids. There's a great picture in there of the whole band at the time. See, the band was still pretty big in the early 80s. So much for funk bands in the 80s getting smaller. Wanted to dispel some of these rumors around here from a lot of people who have their own agenda. Music is music. And there's a lot of things that, at a certain time and at a certain place, we neglect to realize. And this is one of them. Great album from Kool and the Gang. Now, this particular record is actually one of the first full-length albums. I heard 45s all my life by a lot of these people you see. This is one of the first full-length albums I remembered. It was on an 8-track. We had it at a summer camp. Every one of these songs, to me, is part of my collected memory. I could go into this again for hours, but Google or YouTube, Heatwave Central Heating, the Groove Line you already know, Mind-Blowing Decisions you probably already know. This band is amazing, 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 unheralded. This album, as far as I'm concerned, is part of literally the soundtrack of my childhood. As sentimental as that sounds, it influenced a lot of the way I listen to music now, like Michael Jackson did. And Rod Temperton is on this album, and he wrote for Michael Jackson. Big connection there. This album took me a little while to scrounge down. This is their 1979 album, Hot Property. It's actually a little more artsy than the previous one. Now it's available on another record label with bonus cuts. I probably got to get a new one. This is import. I don't know where it's from. Sounds like it was recorded from a tape. But there's some great songs on it, like Razor Blaze is great, All Talked Out. little more abstract on this album, but it's Rod Temperton. Johnny Wilder sadly got into a car accident around this time, and anyway, this is Heatwave's fourth album from 1980 called Candles. Johnny Wilder is on this record, but his participation is diminished. Same with Rod Temperton. This album sounds a lot like a Michael Jackson album, a little smoother, a little less wildly funky than other Heatwave releases. Got a song called Gangsters of the Groove on it, and a really nice instrumental called Crazy on it, which is very nice. And Where Did I Go Wrong? Kind of retro doo-wop thing that they did on this album. Also, one of the all-time Heatwave songs on this, both featuring Johnny Wilder, Turn Around, very, very great smooth funk, and a wonderful Johnny Wilder ballad called All I Am. For those two cuts alone, worth checking this album out for. Sorely underrated. If you love Michael Jackson, you love Thriller, you will love this album. A little tougher than Thriller, but it's got a great song on it with Herbie Hancock called The Big Guns. Every song on this is a hit to me. I'm surprised this didn't go over that well at all. This is poised for massive hit status. Find It in Your Heart, State to State, Letting It Loose, Naturally, Amount You Find. I could hear about 6 or 7 of the 8 songs of this actually played on the radio. Shows you what marketing does for you, huh? This album went nowhere. Few people know it existed. But if you love good music and you want to hear hits that never were, check this out. And this is, well, okay. This, you know what this is. We don't need to talk about that. Okay? This is basically this album, only it made it. This album's a little slicker, but it has Rod Temperton on it. It's Michael Jackson. Okay. You all know this. We don't need to go into that anymore. I'm sorry. Chaka Khan, Chaka Khan, Chaka Khan. 1980. Naughty. This is the import version of an album. It came out domestically a little bit later. Her first album had a hit called I'm Every Woman on it, but it wasn't that consistent an album. Ashford and Simpson produced this album. That's a picture of her with her little daughter, Melanie, on the cover. And this particular album was produced by Ashford and Simpson again, and it's a more flowing album. The sound is much more uniform. It contains a hit called Clouds, kind of like I'm Every Woman, and some other great songs like Too Much Love, which is very funky, and a song with Luther Vandross called Papillon, Hot Butterfly, Our Love's in Danger, which closes out the album, and a wonderful, smooth version of Move Me No Mountain. Very early 80s, sophisticated pop, soul, R&B. If you love Every Woman and want to see that sound stretched out into an album, this is the one to go to. Arif Mardin produced this album, What You Gonna Do For Me. This is a totally different animal. Sonically huge, matching Chaka's sonically huge voice. Billy Preston does a version of the Beatles, We Can Work It Out, that begins the album, takes it to a funky level. You should check her singing that with Tom Jones on YouTube. Worth checking out. And the title song of this album actually became quite a big hit. And she does a version of Night in Tunisia, a very jazzy funk version with Stevie Wonder that is spectacular on this album too. There's also some great album cuts like Heed the Warning, Fate, Night Moves, which is a wonderful ballad. We've Got Each Other with her brother Mark. This is an album that will definitely stand the test of time. I mean, it was made in 81, but I challenge anybody to put an album together with this kind of flair and fire and production ability. That multicolored cover, very good tone poem. You will hear a lot of color on this album. Instrumental color, production color, very colorful music. I'll tell you that much. This is 1982. This took a little scrounging down. Never been available in this country. This is a Japanese import. You can see the Japanese letters on the side. This is her self-titled album from 82. Very, very heavy boogie funk, tearing it up, slow dancing with Rick James. She even does a combination of funk with bluegrass called Best in the West, and it works. But Bebop Medley is a collection of jazz bebop songs, again done in boogie funk style. And she also does this really interesting new wave piece called Twisted, which I've just gotten into, and another funk song called Pass It On. Now, this album, you will hear a lot of new things each time you listen to it. You'll hear things that weren't there before. Check some of its songs out on YouTube. If you think that, vocal female talent doesn't go beyond Beyonce or Rihanna, you want to come here. I mean, this is an album that probably inspires all those people. This is Stanley Clarke again. Time Exposure from 1984. This is where he really got into the Rocket, Herbie Hancock kind of production on this album. It's a little bit more, synthesized and electronic. It's kind of a concept album, mostly instrumental. The hit off this album was Heaven Sent You with Howard Hewitt from Shalimar, but it has songs on it like Are You Ready for the Future and the title track, which is a great composition. This is out of print now, but definitely worth checking out. Again, don't need to discuss this album. Janet Jackson's Control. She gets nasty on this album. Hit after hit after hit, not a bad song. Y'all know it. I can't have a favorite album collection, especially if you're into 80s dance music, without this. This is The Brothers Johnson. Again, Rod Temperton, Heatwave, Michael Jackson, Quincy Jones, all of that. Michael's even on this album on a song called This Had to Be. And you all mostly know Stomp very well. And they did a song on this called You Make Me Want to Wiggle, which is excellent. The title track, Light Up the Night, is also a really good one. So this is, to me, being the last Brothers Johnson album that is produced by Quincy Jones, this is always, I'm going to tend to alter my favorite CD collections because there's always new music coming out. This will always be part of it. Some albums will never leave that favorite. I go back to this again and again and again. And most of my music in my favorite areas I do. Well, I'll be back with another volume soon. It's only a couple more to go. See ya!